quantum mechanics.
Yes, we are the Quantum Mechanics. We're the podcast that delves under the hood of the strange and the unexplained and tries to wrap our head around this weird world that we live in and what's going on.
What is going on? Who knows?
Who knows?
This week, joining us for the second time is Tony Hayes, who spoke to us about EVPs a couple of weeks ago. And whilst we were talking to him about that, he was telling us about a investigation that he is doing. So he is like legitimately employed as a parapsychologist and paranormal investigator. And he has been keeping me up to date with this really strange case, which it's unlike anything else I've ever come across. And I think it's unlike anything he's ever come across. So we've invited him onto the show again today to tell us everything that he has learned in the last 9-10 weeks of investigating the peculiar goings-on at a place in Chester. So welcome back, Tony Hayes, parapsychologist and investigator. Thank you for joining us. Now, you have, since we've spoke to you last, you've been doing a fairly extensive investigation of, a property experiencing strange anomalies in Chester. How did you get involved with that?
Okay, firstly, afternoon, guys. We've actually had this particular case since the 23rd of May. The actual complex itself was completed just over 20 years ago. It's a multi-million pound business just outside of Chester, and that's built exactly on the footprints of the old Georgian buildings. So if you can imagine, if you went back to 1820 and saw these building complex, this new one is built straight on top of it, so it's gone straight on top. Some of the buildings have been smashed down and replaced, demolished. Others have been refurbished and are grade listed, either 1 or 2. The complex then went through another stage of a bit of a transformation, it's making the larger rooms smaller. And the current business owner, which is the one we've been in contact with, he moved in it was completed December last year. He moved in the end of January this year, 2020. Almost immediately, within a few short weeks, he then begins to encounter phenomena which he thought was unusual, particularly knocks, bangs and raps, which, because of, as we're now moved into lockdown, the building is completely empty. This guy's clientele is predominantly American, so he's at the business at night, on his own, and he's hearing these strange phenomena. What he then does is that, it's like anything, you speak to friends and colleagues and they think you're going mad. So he gets his mobile phone and we get some commentary. Walking down through the main office, through the briefing room, into the hallway, you can see the area's dark because it's on sensor lights. And just as he's talking through this enormous bang occurs. And as he turns around with his smartphone, this huge painting, 5.5 kilos in weight, it's just come down. And it's been there for 6 weeks. He actually talks this through after his initial shock.
As you can see, there is nothing in terms of cables. That's just the detector there, waiting again. Nothing in the hall there. Now, that is the light that is automatic. It picks you up as soon as you go into the hall out there. What the hell? Right, so that's been stood there. That's been stood there for the best part of 6 weeks. And I have got the most horrendous goose pimples right now. That's never happened before.
And then it's just ramped up and gone from there. The building itself is there's 2 areas of interest to us. One is this is what we call the main office, is where this business established. The other is across the road from the hallway, which is an empty office 55 foot long by 35 foot wide, fully carpeted, completely modernised, but it's completely devoid of all furniture. So this guy's concerned. He's working there a lot now because of lockdown. He's having to almost work on his own, and it's frightening him. So what he's actually installed now are 3 cameras in each of the rooms, and this is where in towards the end of May, where we're now getting endless amounts of footage that are being sent through from these CCTV alarms, all time stamped, 5, 6, 7 a day, and it's been like that since the 3rd of June, and that's the position we're still in. So that's the background why the owner himself was beginning to question his own sanity, really.
So he was basically working there, dealing with his American clients, probably into the night and on his own, and then all this spooky stuff started to come. So he said it was a mixture of audio and this painting that had come off the wall. Is that right? It came off the wall while he was there.
It's actually on the wall, because he just moved in. He's having this place, put the office furniture, put in pictures up and so on, make the place look respectable.
Yeah.
And what actually happened is, initially he's getting these bangs, raps and knocks and so on. Then what happens is that he decides, when this picture's gone over, to buy these circular trigger objects. They're like balls, but flat-edged balls with these sort of switching. So if the balls are vibrated, or particularly if they're pushed, they light up. This is what
these are cat toys, right?
Similar to cat toys, yeah, but not quite as sensitive.
Oh, okay.
We've done numerous tests. So what he was suggesting is that these were flying out, just falling off either the locker or the desk, or when he's put them onto this actual picture. Now, from anyone who's look at stuff rationally, you think, well, it just fell because of rational reasons. That's got to be the cause. Because initially they were flashing, then they're falling over. What then occurs is that this is where my interest is on the actual raps themselves, the frequency of these raps. Because if I was to get a ball, I think we briefed on this last time on the EVP podcast we did, is that if I got a ball that's on a desk and I push it off and record it, if a spirit, for example, came along and did exactly the same thing, you would expect that frequency to be the same, if not identical. But it's not. It's completely different. It is almost as if this ball is in some form of sock or cushion, and all the frequency, the natural resonances, which is what we got when we tried to duplicate this phenomena for ourselves, is just completely different. So this matched perfectly with 2 other cases that had already been running. One at Stoke-on-Trent, which is still going on, and another job in Ipswich, where they were recording raps, bangs and knocks. In particular, the raps is his main interest. So you've got a particular frequency. They're identical to these other 2 properties. The reason why, the general idea now is that if we're going to prove that your spirit, your haunting, your poltergeist, or whatever we should call it, is a genuine paranormal phenomena, it's the natural noise that this thing can make, where the proof is going to come into, because that can't be in dispute. A picture of a light, or maybe even a part manifestation, can be suggested of being doctored by Photoshop and so on, and likewise with video. So that leaves you very little options of what to actually look for, what you can research and study and think, well, I can possibly get something from this frequency if we've got enough of it. And the big advantage we have with this Chester property is that these are time-stamped CCTV alarms, 200 of them. The various gone off for various reasons, so we know it's the room's empty, devoid of all human occupation, yet this phenomena begins to occur. And then obviously as you're aware, it's gone into other types of phenomena, such as visual, electronic voice phenomena. The bangs and knocks have now increased, and around about 11th of July, we began to experiment on communication, and we now got it to, it appears that it's intelligently now involved with communication, using the rap rather than a voice to communicate with us, if that makes sense to you.
So, are you here with me?
Do you have any messages for anyone?
So, are you here with me?
Do you have any messages for anyone?
Wow.
Yes.
So
So in that report, I read that it was responding to that one knock for no, two knocks for yes kind of communication.
Yeah, because a lot of the EVPs, and this has been this stuff that both you and Peter are not aware of yet, where we've got in this building male and female voices. Unquestionably, we're not sure if the EVP, some are EVPs, because that particular night on the 31st of July, we had 2 recorders running. Well, in fact, 3 recorders. And what we found, because I know this interested Peter greatly, that we were only picking EVPs up on one of the device, either the Roland or the Olympus recorder. Other voices were picked up by all the recording devices, so that's more suggestive now of your disembodied stuff. We also got, as an example, so people can actually imagine this, I've got a 22-second audio that's Amanda, my colleague Amanda Griffiths' sample for me. What you hear is very distinct rap. Amanda acknowledges that, heard a sound. Next is the second rap. Yeah, the bang again. Amanda now acknowledges that by saying skirting board, indicating that's where the area's come from. Next thing is 2 raps. And just as she's talking, a voice begins to break in, which is then coloured because Amanda's talking much louder. We've actually done some work with that. Then seconds later, what you actually hear is an air raid siren.
Skirting board. Skirting board. Skirting board. Skirting board.
So it's almost as if we've got an intelligent spirit in communication with Amanda, with the 1 and the 2 raps, and then alongside this is this residual stuff. You know, the air raid siren is incredible because it's right at the end of the audio. It just comes from nowhere and disappears equally quickly. Quite strange.
and that's not something that couldn't be ambient noise in any way, could it? It couldn't be something from outside. It's very unlikely that there's an air raid siren going off in these day and ages. I know things have got desperate, but not that bad.
No, well, the way we work that particular night is that the Roland recorder, I've got individual gain control, so I am able, the best of my ability, is to tune out outside interference. It's always going to be a problem, even though in the middle of nowhere and it's night, you still get noises leaking in. This siren was only picked up on the Olympus. The Roland didn't touch it at all, which I'd expected to have been the opposite. So there's a load of confusion as to what exactly it is that's taking place there. And it appears to be these multiple types of phenomena, certainly with the residual as well as your spiritual, because undoubtedly when Amanda does another EVP session with it's actually the owner, Andy went in with her on that particular one. And she was very specific of questions that predominantly were going to be a yes answer and we get the one rap. There were 2 questions that she asked where she got the 2 raps. Now, what was interesting about the raps, there seems to be a mathematical formula around it. For example, it seems to answer either in 5, 7 or 9 seconds. Now, there were probably about 27, 28 questions where a noise followed, but it's either 5 seconds, 7 seconds or 9 seconds. And I've gone over this, and I can't quite get my head why that is the case, because you would expect maybe one 3 or 4 seconds, another one 10 seconds, another one 8 seconds, all over the place, but there seems to be some form of mathematical formula, which adds to the mystery of the place, really.
And it wasn't only those raps and the voices. I was watching one of the videos that you sent me where it's almost a distinct barking sound.
Yeah.
And in the notes you said it's within the human voice range rather than
Animal.
an
Yeah.
animal. Yeah, yeah.
And that's something you talked about last time, Tony, when you were on, about the kind of where it is in the human spectrum, and that I think you were saying you were surprised that the kind of what would be the kind of spirit responses were in that spectrum. But this takes it to another level, doesn't it? If it's an animal noise that's in that spectrum.
Yeah. Because we've had birds as well, in particular owls and a cuckoo. People think, well, okay, it's just a cuckoo, but they've normally gone from the UK in May, and they don't coo at 3:30 in the morning. This is cuckoo. I've even spoke to whatever bird experts are as regard to the activities of the cuckoo, and that's quite relevant because it's relevant to the name of the location. You see, it's the village that surrounds it. Dogs barking, bizarre. Normally when I've caught these naturally, they tend to be in the canine frequency, 3,500 hertz, for example. But this is right in my voice. So we had a strange one, which I'm glad Peter's mentioned this because it's a theory that's been hanging around for a while, is that I tend to look after the audio, and we share and we're all listening and we sort of reviewing the audio, and Amanda gets in touch to say within this actual session there's a voice in there which she didn't make, you see. And so, well, is it just coincidence? Well, no, because you know the score with this, it's noise to tag the EVP, the direction, roof or skirting board, that type of thing. That's as much as I've said. I did not say these words, and I thought, well, we'll soon prove this one. So I already got her voice samples, so sample that and this other voice, which does sound like her, but it's different.
Who has the chills? Who has the chills?
It's in a completely different frequency. So we were left with a conundrum then, because the Roland also picked it up. So we can say that wasn't a electronic voice from an EVP, but was it disembodied? Because Amanda's adamant that she never heard it. And
this is definitely a progression from when we last spoke to you on the EVP episode, because I think in that one, we, as you said, there was some weird phenomena with this painting or poster. There was the activity with the balls and light and just kind of random sounds. But I think your frustration at the time we last spoke to you was you guys had not managed to get into the building to check it out for yourself.
Yeah.
And it feels like as you've got into the building, it's then started giving you more, not less, and more kind of intelligent responses and various other noises. And it looks like actual voices and these weird spectrum sounds that are animals but in the human spectrum, which is very odd, right?
The strange one with this one from the day one, from the minute we started on the 3rd of June, when I spoke to the owner and said, look, I'm interested in these raps and bangs, which is all we had at that time. It seems to be similar to some other cases I'm dealing with. Tell me more. So that's when he detailed then that he sent the video to us on the 23rd. He then put this picture back on the wall on the 26th of May. All the phenomena had then flatlined, gone to nothing for about a week, 6 or 7 days. So I said to him on the 3rd of June, well, would you mind taking it back off the wall, wrapping it back in his bubble wrap, and let's see, because the picture is of this movie called Saw. I've never watched the movie, I'm not a big movie buff, but it looked a bit dark, and I thought, well, it seems to be these balls are flying off this picture. We've had the picture patch pushed over. Is this some form of trigger? They'd not had any activity for a week. He puts the picture back on, leaning up against the wall. Within 30 minutes, he gets home and the alarms start again.
And I've got a question about that, because I saw that in one of the original papers that you sent over, that it was from the horror movie Saw, which I'm sure a lot of our audience will be familiar with. But there is a sensible reason why he would have a movie poster for Saw on the wall, because it seems it is the kind of business that's not out of place to have a poster like that on the wall.
No, I don't think it's not the sort of thing I would have, but but yeah, it's there. It may, in the end, turned out to be a red herring. I just thought it was unusual, and we thought we'd try it. We put the picture back down, and it breaks off. Then what begins to occur? It appeared to recycle every 10 days. 10 days of activity, 3 days of nothing. 10 days of activity, 3 days of nothing. Each time it recycled, the phenomena began to change, to the point was, for example, my colleagues in the SPR and the Ghost Club are saying, like, well, these balls just may be rational, and they may be more sensitive than what you think. So we've tested them out. Yeah. But for the last 6 weeks, since they've been in the same place, they've not moved. There's nothing happened to them. They're not flashed or vibrated. And the actual room, what we call the main office, it's where the phenomena first started and got quite intensive, is stopped. It had nothing for 6 weeks. It's completely changed and moved to the empty room. And that happened after one of these recycling 10 days period. Bizarre. I remember writing on one of the reports, I think we're in about volume 10 now, that we're having no audio, no electronic voice phenomena or disembodied stuff. We're getting no light anomalies, which is quite unusual. Next thing is all this stuff begins to occur. We're getting endless amounts of strange light anomalies. One's come in at 10:30 last night, which I can send to you in a week, Ben, which is 2 lights that just emerged from the right-hand side, tend to look like mirror each other. So you can imagine 2 torch lights. At every and we just can't find a rational reason around this. And that's how it's been going on. It's ever evolving. It's not changing. We first went in on the 11th of July as a blanket investigation. We tried everything, and then we went back in on the 31st, which last Friday, mainly for 2 reasons. One, to push my theory is regard to communications, and the other is to sound sample the actual building itself. That, are we just simply talking about building settlement, knocks, bangs, and that type of thing? So we did about 160 sound samples. They were analysed. Absolutely nothing like it. Nothing like what we're used to dealing with.
So
of this.
there's not a rational explanation, because I remember last time when you were on, I was really interested in the bit you told the story of a kind of fox being mistaken for a, and it is something you're specialist in kind of analysing those sounds. Again, it's probably good that you guys have managed to get in there so you can start ruling out that stuff.
Yeah, because one of the things we did do is that it's a twin brick building, substantial, steel framed with a concrete floor, and the roof itself is steel framed. Incredibly strong building. You can jump about on it, nothing moves. But you've still got to run the theory that I'll be dealing with simple building settlement. The problem is with it, is that what we're finding is that if it becomes from the roof area, we know where it's coming from. Likewise, it appears to come from like the skirting board area. So all this is twin brick with a plasterboard wall, plastered with this plastic skirting 7 inches in width, running alongside it. There's nothing there, yet it appears to come from that area, or not from just one area, but around the room. But it always seems to be looking down when these noises occur, and we've now got over 200 of these, and apparently it's using it now to communicate intelligently. So we've got more questions than what we had last time we spoke on this one, Peter. So
So this building, it seems to have become more active since you've started looking at it. Is that typical of how this goes?
Well, sometimes, Ben, I think it's a good point you mentioned. When we get contacted by predominantly households, you see an escalation and phenomena being reported. And I've often said, well, is this just down the fact? Because when they make the phone call to us, we tend to get it when the straw has built the camel's back. Other phenomena has occurred before. And it's that last big strike, that the realisation that something unusual is happening. And because they're now aware of it, are they just noticing a lot more than what they did before? And I think there is some of that in there. I think with this case is unique is because of lockdown and the security of the building. This is the first time that they put the cameras in there, 3 CCTV cameras per room. They weren't there before. They weren't there. So stuff may have been occurring. We have actually spoken to a couple, a cleaner, a painter, and I think the other one's just like an odd job man. They're saying that the businesses that were there in the property before were experiencing certain phenomena, but they haven't gone any further than that. And the difficulty I have with that now is the fact that the actual owner of this complex, he knows we're there. He's quite okay, wants us to try and find out exactly what's going on, because if we don't deal with it, when that room gets full of people, something's going to occur, so they're going to have to deal with it at some point in time anyway. Yeah. So the idea is trying to do it while we've got an opportunity, because the place is back out for rent.
Actually, I was going to ask, so, because I was going to say, in that business, I guess people are starting to go back to work now from lockdown. So have people coming back into that office experience stuff, or is it probably too early to tell?
Well, it's 2 floors of 2 sort of office areas. The top, the client's got the right hand side, the left hand side is completely empty, where we're getting this phenomena. Right. The bottom stairs is again split into 2 sections. They're in during the day, but a lot of them, one of the businesses is still in isolation, because a lot of the stuff they can use from the employees' homes, that type of thing. So I've not seen anybody when we've been there at night of any description, but they are beginning to talk. They're aware of us, because I think that it was one of the cleaners that walked in when it was being discussed, and she put 2 and 2 together. And of course, what you've got now is the local talk, and that can cause us problems, because then you've got the fraud then that gets involved, because no one likes a practical joke better than I do, and it doesn't take long to try to trick something, particularly when they're like security aware that the cameras are there. The reason why I'm a little bit not concerned, but I'm taking into account the fact that these strange white light anomalies put an appearance in at 10:30 last night. Is it possible that someone's playing a practical joke? There's a lot of considerations, you see, and it's made us a little bit more aware than what we were before, when it was kept truly under the radar, So,
and what the client that you're dealing with, was there? I know what you said, that they were saying, like, could you just come and have a look at this, because am I losing my mind or not? But you're gathering quite a lot of, scientifically performed experiments and going back with data.
Yeah.
What are they able to do about it? I mean, is this a case where whatever their belief is, they may need to sort of swallow it and just go to, like, maybe ask a member of the church or something like that? Or after they've been shown that it is real and that's not their imagination, are they just going to live with it? I mean, what's their course of action?
Well, the business owner himself is quite happy to live with it. The landlord, the business owner, is not happy for it to live with, because he needs to get these places rented. This is a multi-million-pound complex, and it's about half empty, so he needs to get people in there. It's got to be a common sense. I'm not into playing with spirits. I'm there to learn from it, and then if the time comes and it's necessary, is bring people in to stop it, remove it. The only problem we have at the moment with this, despite being on it now for getting on for 2.5 months, is that we don't know what it is. We don't know if we're just dealing with a spirit, with some residual stuff, or is it some sort of, we even looked heavily into, because a lot of it indicates some form of poltergeist, which does use the mathematical formula with this phenomena. You speak to colleagues from SPR, and they're suggesting that, well, if you get like a low end sort of poltergeist activity, you can bring in in a way, alongside it, the haunting residual as well as the spiritual stuff. So I don't know. What we do know, it's ever evolving, and it's come out everything with it, including the kitchen sink, practically on everything that you accustomed to actually researching. Yeah, it's a dream job, mainly because of the sheer amount of evidence that we've got provided, and it's not stopping. That this is the thing. What we have done with the business owner is that, because we had these 3 cameras in this empty room, he's back out for advertisement now for renting out. So he's showing people there, and he doesn't want to be left in a situation where someone's going to ask him the question, what are these cameras doing here? So these answer is to remove them on a Monday morning and replace them in the Friday night. So we have lost 5 days of possible evidence from there, and because the room's gone quiet, then it just all kicks off again at the weekend. I don't know.
It's interesting that, like, as you say, this isn't just somebody's house. This is a business premises where there are multiple people making money, and if you are, I guess, like, the normal reaction I would have imagined from most people would be, well, let's get people in to see if there are rats and mice here, all the normal stuff.
Yeah.
But to actually part with money to get a group in like yourselves, it shows that somebody, like, they might not have wanted to have taken this seriously, but they've made the leap to go, okay, it's a real thing. Like, this isn't, like, nobody's making this up. Nobody's got anything to gain from this, have they? They're just trying to work out what's going on, and I think that is really fascinating, because I think, like, so a typical example, there's a pub next door to me, not the haunted pub we're recording, but another one, and just chatting to them, they do have phenomena, but they just kind of laugh it off and they go, "Oh yeah, we call the ghost George," and like, well, have you never investigated it? Well, they're like, well, who's gonna, who would investigate it, and why would we pay them? We're like, well, no, it's a real, it's a real thing. So, how does that play through? How does that first conversation happen when they speak to your group? Are they reticent? Are they worried about ridicule? Whatever we think of that, are they worried about the implications of kind of bringing you guys in?
Yeah, the ridicule is always a concern, because when they make the initial contact, it's normally the straw that broke the camel's back. It's not just that there's very few that will react on one incident. There's normally a period of time when phenomena has occurred, and it's something then it's been quite dramatic and frightening. That stage, the important area is obviously the person's well-being himself. 9 times out of 10, Ben, we've heard it before. Your general white spirit is like so used to dealing with that you get complacent. You just know and how to deal with it, and with 100% track record of stopping it as well. Then you get the oddball, bizarre stuff, which is this case near Chester, which is test your sanity completely, because I've never seen anything like it. Every one of us it's almost as if it's waiting for you. We had an experience within 15 minutes of arrival, Ben. We went up this, it's a beautiful building, up these stairs. Right in front of it is the kitchen. The right hand side is where I'm going to put my boxes, where I've got my gear. The only way that kitchen light comes on is by somebody opening the door and walking inside it, and then the sensor puts the light on. Very similar to the loos and that. The light came on, got our attention. Well, what's that doing there? We tried everything outside it to get this light to come on. We can't do it. The only way we can switch it on is go inside. We decide to just inspect it for flies, insects, one thing we've discussed about recently. Can't find anything. The light comes on again. Now we've fitted a load of gear inside it, and it never came on the rest of the night. Something else then occurs, and this is how it's been. I was with the owner in the building, just the two of us. Andy and Amanda were outside, and we just sat there talking in the middle of the building, and we heard this colossal noise, which seemed to come from the other side of the room. So we walk over quietly with a recorder. It then makes another noise, but from where we just walked from. So we walk back. And this happens a third time. Well, we seem to be chasing sound. And that's the next thing is that the sound seemed to come from the hallway, because the door to the room is open. We've pinned it open. It seemed to come from the doorway. We go into the doorway, and then it seems to disappear completely. So it's almost as if it was sort of pushing us out, because we were chasing sound. And this seemed to be a common occurrence on the night of the 31st in particular. On the 11th, maybe you guys will have an answer to this. We use quite an intricate device called a puck, and it's an environmental reader. It has 6 sensors, and it reads things like humidity, ionisation, magnetism, that type of thing. 6 sensors in total. The Earth's magnetic field changed by 56 degrees after about an hour and 10 minutes actually in the building. It just changed. Now, we unfortunately didn't know this until we run the data afterwards, and it's never done that in all the years we've used this device, and I haven't got the foggiest idea how on earth this could actually occur, because it's normally just a flat line, but the whole axis moved by 56 degrees. We have no idea how that could be achieved. And the testings we've been doing now, even putting a magnet quite close to it doesn't seem to have any great effect to the actual sensor itself, if that makes sense. So that's another strange one that if you look at it rationally, you think, well, it's just got to be a glitch in the software or the device, but at the moment we can't find it because it's worked okay up to now. It's working okay, and then an hour and 10 minutes later, the magnetics completely changed by 56 degrees. So,
but this is kind of it goes back to that manipulation. Like when you were talking to us about EVPs, and you've mentioned it again today about how sometimes a recorder next to another recorder will pick something up and something else doesn't, which implies that there's a manipulation going on. It's not just the sound going into the microphone. And this, again, it sounds like a manipulation. But the whole thing is why? What for? What is the purpose of this?
Yeah, because what the great thing is, if I was dead and I want to make contact with you and Peter, I would make some attempts to do so in a way that you would understand. There's nothing in there in this case so far that's suggestive of why it's there, what it's doing. I have absolutely no idea. You know, it's got that bad there that we've even the business owner won't mind me saying this, but we've actually had him psychologically assessed because a lot of saying particularly with the power with this poltergeist, it's always within ourselves. It's possible through psychokinesis, the old telekinesis, of producing the phenomena for ourselves. So we had him, looked at. Use probably the wrong words, but
you had him checked out.
Because everyone, if you speak to the so-called experts, they say, well, if you're dealing with poltergeist, it's got to be it's person focused. So therefore, there's got to be some form of stress-related anxiety, depression, mental health, whatever. No, because the guy's 20 minutes away from the building, and the phenomena then begins to occur. So that sort of tends to rule that out.
I wanted just to kind of loop back to a bit of the kind of history. I guess the two things I was thinking about. One is there anything... So just to clarify, you think that some of this phenomena was existing before this kind of movie poster was there, that the movie poster might be a red herring, it might have something to do with it, but it sounds like there was stuff going on before that poster arrived. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, we've taken up to now 3 separate statements from 3 individuals. They say they don't know each other, so you've got to take it face value. They seem to be telling the truth. They were saying yes when they've been in there, if they're doing maintenance or cleaning. Some of the staff were getting concerned because, one of the finance groups has simply shifted buildings. They used to be in this empty room and moved across the road. Now, my first response was, well, why would you do that? Go to the expense of just simply moving a location 100 yards, just seemed... But apparently they did do it for logistical reasons, so I thought, okay, they did not move for that reason, but people who were in there were experiencing cups of coffee would just suddenly just be thrown. And so, well, who's done that? Have I caught it by accident? And I asked a couple more times when people said, well, there's absolutely no way, I didn't touch that cup. Other people were saying that they saw objects moving. Now, when they looked at it, the minute they looked at it, it stopped. But she said, I definitely saw this stapler moving. And this comes back to the question that we spoke about, the twin slit experiment, where a simple case of observation seems to have an effect on the way that the atom actually operates, and Steve Mera, another poltergeist expert, saying that people that have seen items being thrown, the minute you seem to lock onto it with eyesight, it just falls on the floor. It's almost as if it's the question of the observation that stops the phenomena occurring. Well, if that's the case, then we have got hope in hell of ever finding out what's going on. So,
yeah, that's interesting. And then the other question I wanted to ask was about the history of the building, because I think with a lot of these things, you kind of go, is there, I don't know, you can't definitively say, but is there anything in your researching of the building and its history that makes you go, oh, that could be a good candidate for why there might be these strange occurrences happening?
Yeah, it was built in, the previous building was 1820, Georgian, and it was a large estate. It was part of the old Grosvenor estate in Chester. There was a massive landowner, Grosvenor. They seem to employ a fair few hundred people there all the way through. It didn't really go out of business about 1960, 65, around that period. It was attacked during the Second World War, and incidentally, just a quarter of a mile away, there was a Second World War airfield there, built in 1943.
Which would explain your siren, I guess, that you heard.
Well, yeah, that sort of took us in that area, because the difficulty of this power suggestion, you never quite know. So that was about a quarter of a mile away. I thought some weeks ago, Peter, that we got to the end of what we could learn from it. But then it evolves, and there's something else that we're going to try now when we go back in a couple of weeks' time over full-blown communication with it using multiple devices. So that's what we're going to particularly concentrate on the next time we go there, because the belief now is that it seems to evolve to the point where it's able to communicate. That can we take it a stage further and get the evidence that will conclusively prove it without question now.
Has this kind of pattern something you've seen before in other investigations, in terms of it kind of gaining momentum and building to a crescendo like this, or is this something unique to this? It seems like certainly this case is at a different level to a lot of things that you've looked at, but do they tend to build to this crescendo that you're about to get to?
It's difficult, Peter, to actually be sure, because predominantly we deal with houses, private houses, the ones that shout out the most. Some of them are people are not there during the day, it's only in the evening. So, you know, with the business property is unique because it's under 24-hour coverage. Anything happens, we just simply get a time-stamped video file. So it's difficult to know. I don't quite know how this one's actually going to turn out, because I've expected it, because when it was cycling 10 days, then stopped for 3, we thought, well, it's blown itself out. Can last up to a couple of months. We dealt with the Somerset case, it went on for a year, and that sort of, we learnt a great deal from that, because I think initially we did misdiagnose it. We treated it as similar to a demonic infestation, but we couldn't stop it, and it seems to have changed. And I think this time we've been a little bit more cautious about misdiagnosis, it should go with it. But it seems to have got everything, including the kitchen sink, Peter. I've never had a case like it in 31 years, and colleagues have spoken from the SPR. I've not experienced anything like this. There are certain famous cases that we can refer back to. Certain case of Enfield, they were dealing with mimicking. We've had a little bit of mimicking in this one. Then you go to another case which doesn't, and it seems to be a bit of everything. And it's because, had I been being told this through a personal experience, for example, taking a statement from the client, I may not particularly want to, I'd be weary about believing this. It's because we've got the evidence, and anybody can go on the YouTube and look at this and say, well, yeah, this is the real deal. You can't argue when the evidence is in front of you. But
Go on, sorry.
yeah, sorry, carry on, Peter. It's okay.
No, I was just going to say, and we'll definitely put links to all the YouTube stuff in the description of this episode. So if anyone wants to check out what Tony's talking about, you can go see for yourself as well.
So has this investigation changed your... I always ask this, but has it changed your worldview about what's going on with, just paranormality in general? I think we've said before, like I think I agree with you that things are probably linked together, but this is so weird. An air raid siren, light anomalies, a bit of communication.
The animal noises out of the spectrum. That's
noises,
incredible.
Yeah.
Like, how does one rationalize this? Because it seems so random, and yet then you talk about like there's this mathematical formula going on about the communication. It's crazy.
Yeah. And it changes moods, and the big one for the mathematics was that one Saturday afternoon, that'd be probably 8 weeks ago, the ball fell every 2 minutes 4 times. Then in the early hours of the morning, the ball flashed exactly every 2 minutes 30 times over exactly 1 hour, almost down to the second. Mathematical. And then, as you said, it goes random on you, and it's like, well, and I think with this is the first. Normally, when you deal with a case, it's straightforward. You know what you've got. Yeah, with evidence, we've learnt a bit from it. Now let's see if we can stop it. So you go to your consultants and say, look, get in there, stop it, bring some peace and tranquility back to the family. Problem gone away. Move on to the next case. This one, I've run out of people to contact now over. Is there anything that we can try? Because it's got that bad now that, particularly we had this one over the magnetic stuff, and Steve Mera is running the theory that if you look at seismic and magnetic anomalies throughout not just the UK, throughout the world, you often find increases in phenomena in this particular location. So, okay, there's even a Google Earth app now you can use to go and put your location and find out. But no, it's right in the middle of 2 anomalies, but it's not actually sat on one, which, is some sort of magnetism, because there has to be an energy involved here somewhere. This is the thing, where it's getting its energy from. I think it's the second EVP session with Amanda, they actually got which I think, I'm not sure if that's on YouTube, but if not, it would be imminently on YouTube. The conversation is, I can hear it, it's in the skirting board area, and Amanda said, oh, that feels a bit strange. And what's happened to her is she's got goosebumps and the hair standing up on her arms and stuff. She's very sensitive to energy. That seems a bit weird. Then the owner of the building then says, oh, look at my arms, all my hair standing up, and I've got goosebumps. When he walked into the main office later, they were still happening. So what Amanda says then is, can you touch Andy, the owner? And there's an EVP saying, touch who? You see, and like, well, is that an EVP or is it it's embodied? You go to the Roland, it's on the Roland. So it's not an EVP, it's disembodied, but they didn't hear it.
And I had a question about the animal sounds that are in the human frequency. So I'm no audio expert, so I'm just trying to get my head round it. It sounds like a dog, but it's in the wrong frequency. Would that be a correct description?
Yeah.
How's that possible?
I don't know.
So you can look at it on a graph, and it looks like a human voice. I don't know what a dog would come out. Probably higher in the frequency, or lower, or one. Where would it normally sit? I know this is a bit of a geeky question, but it is fascinating me.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like with a female. There is when you really, if they're quite close, then obviously you're going to go into a little bit more detail. So, what I was looking for is big differences, such as the raps are different to what we could do when it's human intervention. With the dog itself, it's always around that area of this 50,000, 1,200 hertz area, around that bit. Now, in other times when we've recorded animals, such as, someone sends a video in, it might be 2,500 hertz. It's massively on a different frequency spectrum. So we then look, well, I heard the dog. I think there's about 2 or 3 dogs that we've had. You look at it, you think, well, that's human frequency. But it sounds like a dog.
And if it was in that frequency, it should sound different to what you're hearing, right? If you change the frequency of a dog from the, whatever it is, the 3,000 down to a human frequency, it would totally change what a dog sounds like, wouldn't it?
Well, if you barked yourself,
yeah,
Peter, or even Ben, and recorded it, I would be confident I could tell it was a human that's done it.
You as a human, yeah.
Mimicking is not uncommon, but it's relatively rare, and we've had two incidents where it's suggestive of mimicking, but the voice with Amanda and whatever this was certainly was not Amanda. Almost in a way, I wouldn't say it was male either. So it was an odd, strange one.
Can you speak into the device that Andy's holding in his hand? Can you speak into the device that Andy's holding in his hand?
See, Steve Mera maintains that a spirit is able to manipulate a frequency. I don't like that idea, and I've not certainly encountered it, because that's almost like wanting to make something fit. So therefore, we'll say that the spirit manipulates the frequency. I don't buy that one. But generally, it tends to be like you're talking now, Peter or Ben. You get the frequency. Yeah, that's Ben. That's Peter. And then you get the dog. I don't know. The cuckoo is another one. That's another but that was different. It was similar to a cuckoo, but apparently the cuckoo shouldn't have been there.
So the frequency was okay. It's kind of out of place for the time of year.
Yeah. The thought there was it. I'm confident what we've actually done now with the CCTV cameras. The room's 55 foot long. If I go to about 30 foot, the camera won't pick me up. If I hit the side of the wall, it won't pick me up. I've got no chance. So the camera's not as sensitive as what we first thought it would be. So it doesn't appear to... the owner has got this really loud car. I don't do cars, I'm a motorbike man. The other recording equipment picks it up, but the camera doesn't pick it up. So it's not quite sensitive. So you've got a cuckoo here. So what's the significance of a damn cuckoo? It shouldn't even be there. It should have cleared off 3 months ago after leaving its eggs back off to Africa, and the only coup apparently from about 7 to 8 o'clock in the morning. This is 3:30 in the morning.
Well, it's quite an interesting kind of bird to choose, really. A bird that you said a bird that shouldn't be there. That's basically the life of a cuckoo. Isn't it? It's quite a good analogy.
we've investigated such weird stuff here, such as the breeding habits and feeding habits of the cuckoo bird. So well, it takes us a little bit out of a remit normally, but you've got
We're
to
slightly worried about your Google search history, Tony.
Oh, tell me about it. I just get worse and worse. And it's still ongoing. We're still just putting the. We've done the 11th of July report now. We're now moving on to the 31st. So everything's been reviewed. We've got phenomenal.
And if you take your crystal ball, Tony, and just kind of look into the future, how do you think it's all going to end? How do you think it's all going to play out in your mind, this whole case?
I'm not even going to guess at that one, Peter. Honestly.
Fair enough.
I'll be proved to be wrong. I've been proved so many times on this one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But would you say it's the weirdest thing that you've ever investigated? Would that be fair to say?
Yeah. Because it's almost it tests your sanity, to be honest with you. I spoke to my colleague Amanda on Friday, and I said, we've had nothing. So because they were on about putting a secret camera into the empty room, but I'm not sure if that's what's happened yet. I said, well, nothing's happened because it's just completely dead. And the following day, I come in, it's like, what's another 5 movers from the owner, and it's all kicked off again. Last weekend, it was fine. I had nothing. A load of other weird stuff, raps, voices, and light anomalies. The growl, we've started to get growls as well now. That seems to have cropped up more and more. I'm always suspicious with growls. But because the building's CC, Peter, it's monitored. There's only one exit door. If anyone comes through that door, camera 3 picks it up. So if camera 1's reacting to a noise or a light anomaly, if someone had come through that door, camera 3 would alarm as well. So confident that no humans walked in the room to make the noise. Strange. I don't know.
That's amazing.
You'll have to come over.
It really is.
Yeah, we'd love to come and see it.
I still, I'm never going to stop wondering why a spirit would just bark like a dog. It doesn't make sense.
It didn't make any sense at all.
No.
And that's on 3 occasions. It doesn't appear to be. And Pity Comet's saying it's not in a. If it was a dog outside, I picked it up and I realised it was a dog because I've recorded these and analysed them before. Again, is this residual? Is it an EVP? I don't know. We had maybe 8-9 weeks ago, what sounded like singing, almost like a choir at distance. And the weird one was this massive, like, white out. When because infrared cameras, the minute you get that with any light, they just white out. It just gets bang, whites out. And as it begins to subside, you've got this, like, if it was an abbey, you'd swear it was a monk stood there looking at it. I think you've seen that one. I think, Ben, have I sent you that one? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a monk. You think, well, what is that? Where does that come from? No answers. And we move on to the next one. So all we get to do is we've got an inbox full of questions to be answered with very little on the reasons for it. So, yeah.
I mean, we definitely like to keep an eye and an update on this case, if that's all right with you, Tony. Maybe it's at some point get you back on once we've got to that. Once we've got to the point where we know what's happening with the case, maybe get you on for a bonus episode just to update us on further developments, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, no problem, because it's a confusing case and it's incredibly difficult to put it into any sort of constructive order because there's always bits that you forget about.
So that was quite extraordinary. I would encourage everybody who listens to this episode to go and check out some of the links that we'll put in the description of the episode. And I think if you've got any ideas as to what might be going on, let us know in the comments, because we'll feed them back to Tony, and we'll definitely stay in touch with you, Tony, to see how this one plays out. Thank you so much for joining us. It was fascinating.
Always
Yeah,
a
thank
pleasure
you,
with
Tony.
you two guys. Always a pleasure.
Wow, Ben, it's just
Yeah, what do you think to that?
it's so much to wrap your head around, isn't it?
It's so
just
much.
bonkers.
I
mean, the flow of it, the kind of it seems like it's built and built and built. And I remember, when we got Tony on before to talk in the other EVP episode we did, which was more kind of generically about EVPs and some of the stuff he's worked on. This case came up, and I saw some of the videos and documentation about it. And at that stage, it was, these light balls that were moving and some odd sounds, and there was some stuff around the Saw movie poster. But since then, it seems like it's ramped up another level.
It has,
And
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's even more mysterious. Like, it's the range of the different phenomena that's there. It isn't just rapping. It isn't just EVPs. It's not just human voices. It's human voices imitating dogs. It's cuckoos singing.
Which blew my mind. That blew my mind. The frequency in the dog thing is
right.
just crazy.
It's sirens. There's all this peculiarness going on. And like I asked Tony, and there's no good answer, but why? What is something putting its presumably otherworldly ethereal energy into barking like a dog?
Yeah.
Why? What is the point of it?
And it's like, we often say this when we're doing these podcasts. It's like, okay, just, we've got to try and keep our cynical head in there. And what has anyone got to gain for making this up? But I think the point that really kind of hits me is, there's a guy who owns this building who wants to be able to rent it out to people. There's absolutely, not only is there no benefit to him having all this stuff going on, that it's detrimental to his business to have it going on in the first place.
Yeah.
So, it's crazy. There just seems so much here that just seems completely odd. And I think the fact that, when I first read it, I think the Saw poster thing slightly, and I think a couple of my questions, it's to Tony, it's slightly kind of made me think, well, it's a bit weird that it's around the Saw poster. It kind of makes you a bit kind of suspicious in a way. And I think Tony referred to it as, thinks it's a bit of a red herring. And the fact that it's kind of bigger than that now, and that I guess the point I'm making is, I think before it was all that they were being provided the footage and they were going through it. I think the thing that's really interesting is they've actually now gone in there as a team to investigate it themselves. And not only have they found stuff, it seems to have ramped up another level since then with kind of, intelligent responses to what they're doing. It's fascinating.
Yes, absolutely. And until I'd heard about some of those things and actually seen them and heard them with my own eyes and ears, like he was saying, I don't think I would have quite believed it. But you just come away sort of with the realization that he's not just going in most haunted style. He's actually taking precautions to make sure that this evidence is all scientifically recorded and being properly investigated. And you're left with the fact of, well, yes, this did really happen. And then we can only guess at the reason for it. But
and I think that's the other thing, like you said, in a kind of, it's not in a kind of Netflix kind of Amazon Prime video kind of, ham it up way, because that's not really what they do.
No.
In fact, it's I think a lot of it, Tony's kind of downplaying it a bit.
Yeah.
We're sitting there going, oh my God, was like, hold on, he's kind of matter-of-factly going, oh, well, it was a dog, but it was in human frequency, not in the dog frequency. And I'm sitting there going, well, that's just crazy.
wait, what? Yeah, no, absolutely.
Well, I think hopefully that he'll come back on again and kind of update us of how the whole thing progresses, because I'm fascinated. I don't know. I kind of mentioned it on the interview. It feels like it's building to a crescendo. So it'd be incredible to know what happens in the end.
Yeah.
I want to find out.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep everybody updated. I'll talk to Tony on the email and see where he's at. But
yeah.
There's another case to add to the mystery that is this world.
It's one of those we've got many a file that's got unsolved on the shelf.
Oh
but
God, yeah.
It's all part of the hunt, and we kind of love it. And well, thanks to Tony and all the team that are investigating that for keeping us up to date. And we'll let you know when we know more. Absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Well, we'll see you next time on the Quantum Mechanics.
See you next time.
Are you the quantum mechanics?